Hey, before we get started, I just wanted to say thanks to all my subscribers out there. I recently hit 1,000 and I'm super excited. Couldn't have done it without all of you. Also wanted to say thanks to everybody who leaves such supportive and enthusiastic comments under these airplane videos. I'm really happy that you're enjoying and appreciating these planes as much as I am. And huge shout out as well to Kyle over at Foldable Flight for getting me started on this channel. It's been a blast, and I really have enjoyed working with him, both publishing planes on his channel and getting advice on how to start this all up. So without further ado, let's talk about the paper airplane stand. A lot of people have commented in my videos, they'd like to see a tutorial on that. So let's get to it. Thanks everyone. Instead of a paper airplane for you today, I actually have a paper airplane stand. Many of you have noticed this in my videos and have been asking about it, so today I'm going to walk you through a tutorial on how to fold this. It's a great way to display your paper airplanes. Full credit right off the bat goes to the Origami channel Protogenius, so you should go check out his channel. This paper airplane stand is actually a modified version of his that's featured on his channel. I've just tweaked some of the steps to make it more my own style. But, he's the originator of this design, so please go give his channel some love. He's got some really great origami airplane designs, some of the coolest out there. But let's get started. The first thing we're going to do here is take a large sheet of square paper. I like to make this a little bit bigger than the paper size that I use to fold the airplanes. So you can use the same size paper as you fold with the airplanes. It's just going to be a little bit smaller. I definitely wouldn't make it out of a sheet of paper any smaller than you would normally use for your airplanes, because otherwise the stand is just going to get really tiny and it's probably going to tip over. Okay. So for this one, I got a 10-inch sheet of paper. Normally I use a 7-inch sheet of origami paper for my designs, if that helps you out with the proportions. Okay, our first step is actually going to be making diagonal lines in both directions here. So we're going to fold it over corner to corner, crease it down, and then unfold it. There's one. And two. Go ahead, unfold that. Then we're going to flip the paper over. And now we're going to make horizontal and vertical creases in the same manner. So fold it in on itself, match those corners up, crease it down, unfold it, and then repeat in the other direction. Okay, now that we have that X and the cross there, both of those folds done, the next step is to pinch this together using the creases that already exist. So you get this X shape here. Now this should be taller than it is wide. So if you followed the creases that I made, you're on the right step here. If you have to reverse these creases in order to make this shape, that's fine too. You should be able to flatten this out into a square shape here. So just press that down, make sure everything is aligning correctly and nothing's overlapping or getting in the way inside of that design. Okay, next we're going to check where the gaps are. So you can see this one has a solid fold line here, and then it actually opens up in this section. So you want those open flaps to be towards you or on the bottom. So I'm going to flip mine over. Next, we're going to take that open edge here. You're going to take the entire layer and fold it into the middle. So this edge is now going to match the center crease, which you should still be able to see from your initial folds. And it's okay if there's a little bit of a gap there. But one thing that you want to try to do is try to get these corners right down here as precise as possible. Get that fold all the way down to the corners if you can. And we're going to do the same here. We'll follow that down to the corner and then crease the rest of it. Okay. Then we flip it over and we do the same folds on the other side with these remaining two sheets. So again, you're taking that whole layer and folding it into the center line. Just like that. Okay, now you should have this triangle in the back here. It's just a single layer instead of these folded layers. We're going to actually bring that over the top, crease that down, and then turn it over and do the same in the other direction. So we're just making this triangle here, putting a crease right at the top where we made those layers in the last step. Okay, now we're going to unfold both sides, front and back, and then we're going to fold upwards. We open up this flap here so you can see the underside of your paper using this crease line, and these lines you're going to fold upwards, reverse that paper in, so now you have a triangle that extends upwards instead of down, just like that. We're actually going to flip it over and do the exact same on this side. So we open it up, reverse those creases, and flatten it down. Mine's getting a little bunched up here at the top. See if I can fix some of those creases that are having some problems. There we go. That's better. And just make sure everything aligns nicely here. Flatten it out. Okay. Now we're going to open these in a different direction. So right now we have this diamond shape. If you open these layers, you can actually still make a diamond shape. You'll just be able to see this triangle here now instead. We're going to do that on both sides. So we basically just open up the folds we made. And now that we've done that, you should have one section that is a solid triangle and the other one here that has a little gap in the middle. That's looking good. Next, we're going to fold one of these layers from this side over to the other side. So we just have the single layer of paper left behind here. And this is going to overlap with that side that had the gap in the middle there. Okay. Now that we have this side of our paper that has more layers on it, we're going to fold these edges into the middle. So we're going to take that whole layer there. It's actually going to be two different layers. We're going to fold them over. Again, trying to make these points at the tip as nice as we can. They're not going to be perfect, but just do your best. And bring that into the center. And we're going to do the same here, where we fold it over and into the center line. Now we're nearly done here. Next step is to take this back layer, just this single layer of paper here, and we're actually going to fold these edges over so they fall right along this crease line here. So you just want to put it just under that layer that you just made so it falls right along that crease line, which you should see from a previous step. Flatten that out and then open it up and do the same in the other direction. Fold that right along that crease and then open it back up. We're going to use those as reference points for a step coming up. Now, this is probably the most complicated step right here. We're actually going to start lifting up this inner layer here. So you've got these top layers. We're going to actually open them just slightly and pull this inner section up. And as we do that, we're going to pinch it together. So this crease that runs right down the middle, it's actually going to be a mountain fold. We're going to keep pushing that together as we bring it back, and then this is going to make the main stand here. You can see it's starting to come up from the base. And in order to do that, I just push down here as well as flatten these layers out. We're kind of all doing this at the same time, and it can get a little complex. But basically, you just want to set the angle of this section to where you want it, and then flatten down the layers around it. Just like that. That might take you a few tries, and that's okay. You'll get the hang of it once you give that a try. Now, we want to interlock this section of the paper with this section that's standing up. So I pinch it together using those folds that we just made, just like that. And then I bring it forwards until it falls along that section that's sticking up from the other half. And once it's touching and overlapping, you can see it's actually surrounding that intersection. Then I flatten down my outer edges, make sure everything stays in place. Then I just bring this out a bit, and I'm looking here for a very specific layer. So if I take this part that's standing up, bend it forwards a little bit, you should be able to see there's a layer inside there. You can see there's a gap between this triangular section and then this more complicated flap. We actually want to thread this edge into that gap. So that also can get a little tricky, but what I do is I just pull off one side at a time, and I open up this section and just slide it in. Then I hold it in place and do the same on the other side. Then I push everything back together. And this, like it's taking me a few tries, may take you a few tries, but if you just gently push that paper together, eventually those layers will nest together really nicely. Okay, so now our stand is pointed up and it's pretty sturdy. We've got a lot of interlocking layers holding it up, so we're in good shape there. The next part is where we start to diverge a little bit from that Proto-Genius design, where I'm going to make this just a little bit differently. I am not a huge fan of these sharp points that he has on his design. That's just not my style. I would prefer a more rounded base. So what I do here is I take these edges, these points right here, and I fold them back to their point where they intersect with other layers of paper. So you're not going to be able to fold it back any farther than this. And then you're going to shoot for that point to tuck in right at this corner. So you just fold it back and aim for right there where you can get around this layer and under this one. So right about there, crease that down, and then I just tuck it in, just like that. Tuck it under that upper layer. Okay. Next, I do the same thing on this side. I fold back to the point where it can't fold anymore, and then I use that point to go right at the intersection there where I can get around this layer and under the back layer. That way, everything holds together really nicely. Now, these look pretty good. If you want to soften these corners just a little bit more, what I do is I just use my finger to find the inner layer there. You can probably see there's a little crease that I'm able to find with my finger, and then I just fold the corner in to hit that. So I'm taking this edge, laying it along this line here, like so. Then I just unfold, tuck that inside, and refold it down. There you go. Let's do the same thing on this side, and then there's just one more step to complete. So fold that corner in, then open it back up, tuck the corner inside, reverse those folds and press the outer layer back down on top. All right, so that is my origami stand. If you want to, sometimes I bring up these corners of this layer that's just hanging out right here. I think it gives it a more three-dimensional look if I just pinch these up a bit, but that is totally optional. They don't do anything structurally for the design. It'll work the same with or without them. There we go. Now, depending on the airplane you're going to be holding on this stand, you may want to adjust this to either sit more vertically or more of an angle. That's up to you and the design, but you're going to have to make a little bit of a crease here at the top to hold your airplane. So what I do is I look for this point where this second layer intersects, and I just fold down there at that point. I actually just slide my thumb into the layers there right in front, pinch it down, and I make it into an inverted V, just like that. And these points are getting very thin, you know, not a lot of paper to work with up here, but this is the part of the stand that's going to be hidden. So it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to support an airplane. I've found that most of the planes work pretty well with an inverted V. You should be able to see how that looks. If the plane has more of a top keel to it, it could even work to flip that over and make it go the other direction. It just depends on what your plane supports and what works best. So there you go. That is the stand that I use in all of my videos, if you've been curious about that. And if anybody has any planes they'd like to display, it's a great way to do it. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll be back next time with a new design, something we haven't seen before, coming out of my more recent planes. So thanks once again. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you here on the channel. If you enjoy paper airplanes, feel free to drop us a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.